let you know about sort of that question, just to remind you.
You talking to me?
Yes, yeah.
No
We just thought we'd collect a couple of questions. They ended up being one question, but we'll ask it in the end, if that's all right.
Yeah, good luck. You won't make it that far. Good luck.
Now we'll stop you. We'll stop you. Don't worry. But please go ahead.
I'm sure you will. Okay.
Oh.
Name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I got to be honest. I don't like this restrictive format. I have a time limit and I have to wrap up. I have my own YouTube channel for this reason. I can talk as long as I want. No one can stop me. Like I like to contemplate on the Psalms, as Dr. Kira knows very well. No one can stop me, but here you can stop me, I guess. It's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. I'll do my best to get the information across. And I guess this came about because last week you had a pre-sermon talk on dating. So we have to show you the better side. That's a joke. We have to show you the other side. So I mean, just in case you don't know who I am, like we'll talk a bit about that. The topic's very big. This is a picture of me and when I ordained a priest with the other monk with me. We call him my brother because we got ordained together. So they call that like brother in monasticism, not literally brother in blood, but brother is in like in ordination. That's just a picture of the monastery gate. If you haven't been there, and look, so lots of questions that Dr. Kira asked with David, like how did I become a monk? Like who am I and how to become a monk? What is monasticism? This itself is 1 hour if I want to talk about that question, but that's the people that organize the talks. How does someone become a monk or nun? Again, that's a broad question. What is a typical day of a monk? You're not going to find one answer for that at all. It's a bit of a mystery. It's not really a mystery, but like someone that doesn't visit the monastery, they really, it's like mysterious. What do they do? We had a video. We have a video on our YouTube about like the 20th anniversary, and I remember Abu Nawisa, one of the fathers. It's on YouTube, and he's like, at the beginning, because there was no monasteries in Australia before, they're like, how do we deal with a monk? Are we allowed to greet each other? Are we allowed to laugh? Are we allowed to smile? It was like all this mystery. What are some lessons that I have learned? Yeah, I wanted to ask this question to some of my brothers, the other monks, but I forgot to send it to them. We'll try to adjust some misconceptions. That's if we make it that far. Challenges, goal, and some nice things, of course. Of course, it's not roses. Monasticism, monastery is not roses. Being a monk is not roses, but it has lots of nice things. And this was a question that Dr. Kira had. Can you practice a life of monasticism outside them? He wrote asceticism, but I think monasticism is a better word because monasticism covers a range of things. Asceticism is a bit limited. So we'll try to adjust those questions. And he also had monastic role models. So we'll try to talk a bit about this. I just want to share one story at the beginning, because David says share as many stories as you can. So 1 or 2 years ago, this story is kind of like summary of monasticism, sort of. 1 or 2 years ago, I was on a retreat, like a local retreat. So like I was having a quiet time outside the monastery, kind of like a holiday, but we call it retreat, at a Catholic retreat center outside of Sydney. And when I was going there, I wanted to go for a walk. Outside the monastery. So as I started to walk outside the monastery, outside the retreat center, I made my way to a cemetery. And it was very clear early on when I went to the cemetery, A, the cemetery was very small, and B, it was pretty clear that this was an abandoned cemetery. Just like this picture here, the grass was thick and green and covered the tombstones, and there was algae or whatever else is on there. It was very clear that this was an abandoned cemetery. But anyway, I'm on retreat. I wanted to go for a walk outside the retreat center, have like a really good walk. So let's go there. And let's look at some of the tombs. Let's read some of the tombs, see the names. how old people were in their life when they died. And at the beginning, you could read some. I could read some of the names. There was no one there. I was by myself, and then I could read some of the names. But then, as I made my way across, and there were different sizes. Some tombs were big, some were very simple, and some were like really like covered in grass. Some of the names I could not read. I could not read at all. I could barely make out letters. It was that abandoned. I'm like, wow, these people are really forgotten. Like they're not just forgotten by the world. They're forgotten by even their own families. That you can't even read the names. They don't even have a name. And then I was like, wow. So I decided to like contemplate a bit. There was a bench there, one bench there. I don't know why there was a bench there. So I sat down there, and I never do this. I don't like to sit down and just contemplate much, even though I'm a monk. But I sat down there for like maybe 20 minutes, and you see the cars drive by, and it wasn't many cars. It's a quiet area outside of Sydney. And I'm like, man, life is not just life is short, but also like you're forgotten by the world, but you want to be remembered by God. So monasticism is kind of like that. You're forgotten by the world. You're just like you're unknown person, but you want to be remembered in the eyes of God. Eyes of God. So I thought that was like a nice story. And this verse always stands out for me. This is my favorite verse in the midnight prayers. It says, "Blessed is the man who forsakes this life and its vain pleasures that are full of suffering that kill the soul." I'm not going to ask if you know where it's from, because it's good luck knowing it. But it comes from the Friday of Sali, one of the prayers on the Friday, midnight prayers. And the monk, he prays the midnight prayers every day. He prays it Sunday to Sunday, like every day. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and there's a psali, there's a praise for each one. If anyone's attended the midnight prayers, that's about. But this verse really stands out because, look, it's the call of all Christians and it's the call of all monastics. Blessed is the man who forsakes this life. This is what a monk does. He forsakes this life. He leaves this world. Like the gospel recently, when Christ came to Peter and he called the other disciples, he what did he do? He forsook all. He left all to follow Christ. So the monk does this. He forsakes this life, meaning like the earth, meaning like we say the world, which is a complicated word, but basically to say he lives in the monastery. It's a different world, and if he does that, he forsakes the vain pleasures that are full of suffering that kill the soul. Yeah, the world meaning sin, materialism, temptation, all of these are vain. They are vain pleasures. They do not satisfy. They do not last long. They don't have any fulfillment, and they're full of suffering, and they kill the soul. They cause the death of the soul, you'll be judged by this. And I would also argue it kills the body too. It kills the spirit and the body, the flesh. That's one of my favorite verses. Okay, look. So I'm asked to speak about kind of like why I became a monk. This is a big topic. But last year I gave a talk about sort of like my there was one of the series on testimonies. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it, but and it was kind of like talking about how I came to the Coptic Orthodox Church. I wasn't Coptic Orthodox my whole life, and this is kind of like a framework about why I became a monk. It's a big topic. Let me see what I can talk about, but it's on YouTube that I gave a talk at St. Barbara's last year. If you want more information, but let me try to cover a bit. So, just a bit of background. My parents were born in Egypt. Both were born in Egypt. This is a picture of Egypt here. This is a picture of Australia. My parents were born in Egypt. My dad came to Australia when he was much younger than my mum. And to summarize, my dad has a Roman Catholic background. Now he's got ordained. He's Coptic. But before, he was always Roman Catholic, and my mum was Coptic Orthodox. But I did not know this at all. At all. I never knew about it till much later, till I was like a teenager. And And the reason I say this is because I wasn't brought up Coptic Orthodox at all. I never heard of it. I was brought up in the Catholic Church a bit, but even that was like kind of like sporadic. It wasn't a high attendance, and I wasn't a strong believer. I never saw my mom, forgive me, but I never saw my mom ever go to the Coptic Orthodox Church ever. I never heard of it, never saw her go, never saw her practice. So yeah, it was a bit more like Catholic by name. And this story is important. So I ran away from home. We're trying to talk about why this is important for monasticism. But I ran away from home when I was 14 years of age. And look, it tore the family apart. And the thing is, I didn't just run away from home for like a day or 2 days, like most people, like people that run away from home, they come back quickly. I stayed away for a good 2 years, well over a year and a half. And I'm not going to comment why or how, just like last year, I'm not going to comment why or how I ran away from home and what exactly happened during that period. But basically, it was a very dark period. I was far away from God. I had no moral framework, and you're just a rebel. And I was very depressed. It was the worst 2 years of my life. I guess this is important to know because it helped me become a monk. And I was very lonely, living in a dark time, and it was very difficult, very difficult. Look, I wouldn't say I was suicidal. I was very depressed. I wouldn't say I was a believer. I wouldn't say I was atheist. I was probably agnostic, meaning like maybe God exists, but I'm not sure. And even if it does, I don't think he cares at all. So like I said, I stayed away for about 2 years, away from my parents and my younger brother. And this picture here is just to show, it's like a bag of lots of bags. It's like, what do you do when you don't have God? You do other things. So one thing I did, among others, but I'll just talk about a couple of things. You try to be popular with materialism, having possessions. You have like a status. So I used to seek having like a materialism, like materials. My dad used to work. My dad is an engineer. Used to work for I think they called the Network 3, meaning 3G, and he was a lead engineer. He was very big, very prominent as an engineer. And he gave me a phone, and at that age, talking 20 years ago now, that age having a color phone is rare. 3G network just came out. It's something to be popular with. You try to be popular and you try to show off because you're empty. You look to fit in with the people, so you find the sense of meaning without God. And what do? You party, among other things. I won't comment too much further. Just one thing about the party, like I want to say, just to show you have no moral framework. Like I said this last year in the talk, but I'll say it again. Like, if you don't have any moral framework, you got no reason to pursue whatever you want to pursue. If it feels good, do it. And so, like for example, I was quote unquote at a party flirting with this girl, and we're flirting with each other. This is so embarrassing, but I'll say it again. And I was flirting with this girl, and they're like, yeah, and we took down each other's numbers, which is big at the time, having numbers. And we didn't go to the same school, thank God. But then like we were trying to meet up and then pursue a relationship. But I just remember it never worked out. I can't remember why we didn't meet up. And because we didn't go to the same school, it died out. Just to show you that, look, if you have no framework, you will just keep going. And that's just half the story. This story is important. This is a true story here, or holding a glass of water in my hand. This is true. So during the difficult period away, pretty much by myself, just living with my grandmother, and no guidance, no one there to look out for me, really, being your own boss, being a rebel at 14, 15. I had a glass of water in my hand, and I went to the bathroom, and I said to God, if you're real, you will make this room shake. So I believe that you're real. Like, I'm testing God. If you're real, okay, make this room shake. And guess what? The room didn't shake. The glass didn't move. All right. And I know now that you shall not tempt the Lord your God. And another translation, shall not test the Lord your God. That's not how it works. Okay? God doesn't have to prove himself. He's God. And it says in Deuteronomy, you shall not tempt the Lord your God as you tempted him in Messiah. That refers to when the Israelites, they tempted him to, like they say, give us water. They're demanding water, as if God bows down to them. And I'll be honest, yeah, after that, I really, forgive me, but I cursed God. I cursed God to his face. I said, you don't care about me. I basically said, you're useless. You don't exist, even though I'm talking to God. You don't exist. And yeah, it's kind of like a self-confirmation of my disbelief in God, or at least my lack of belief. And the other thing I used to do, I used to write in my diary. Like we had a diary, and I changed schools a couple of times during that time. I went to a Catholic school later on. I went from a public to the private, the Catholic school, and they would give us a diary, and they tell us, and they used to write down things. And I used to write and complain. I don't remember if I was complaining to God, but I would complain like I'm depressed, like get me out of this, to a higher being, help me. I have nothing going for me. I don't know what to do. And I used to write and write. I'm in a hellhole. And a lot of people like to write diary entries. I stopped doing that now. These days I write out Psalms. But yeah, we'll come back to that point. And so, look, I moved away, like I said, for about 2 years, and nothing was going for me. And my mum, look, it's hard to imagine. Can you imagine how much it would tear a family apart, especially the mother? Mother's very emotional. I look back now, it's difficult to talk about. But during that period, my mum was encouraging me, told me to come back. We met up after about a good year and a half. She attended my year 10 graduation. She told me to come back home. And look, I had nothing else going all right. And I can't imagine how much it would have broke my mum apart. It really did. So look, I decided to move back. I packed up my possessions, which were like very few things, and I moved back. Moved back home. And one of the things that when I moved back, during this time period, I did not know that my brother and my mum started going to the Coptic Orthodox Church. So I guess my mum went back to the Coptic Orthodox Church. She stopped practicing the faith for many years. My brother during that time got baptized. I had no idea. I wasn't there. I didn't attend. And then they told me, let's go to church. I'm like, all right. Look, I don't want to go to church. I have no interest in church. But they said, look, we can go play soccer. And my brother was part of the soccer team at that time, my younger brother at the time. And look, he was very good at soccer. I was very good too. But so I liked soccer. And so I went there. And I just remember the experience being very good. I went there, and the coach was very nice. The servant was the servant, and he said, like, what position you want to play. And when my brother was there, he was like being welcoming. Everyone was very nice, and I joined the team, and I was like, oh, this is very nice. Everyone's so polite, and I was very good. And my brother was very good, so we were a good combination. I used to play in midfield, he was attack. And that was like a starting point. It was a lead-in. I didn't know at the time, but that was a lead-in. It was an opening to joining the church. Just a picture of my favorite player and team. And this is very significant, that when I was in the moved to the Catholic school, when I was moved to the Catholic school, and the year 10 graduation, they gave us a cross. This is the Catholic cross that they gave us. And they said to us, no one's allowed to throw out the cross. Well, I didn't want to throw out the cross, but maybe some people did. But and so I kept the cross after year 10 graduation, and then I moved, and then I was after that I moved back home. And I took the cross in my bag. I didn't pack up many things, but I kept the cross. Why did I pack up the cross? Look, I wasn't really a believer, but I had hope that things would get better. I guess I had hope. And that's what people do, even that are not people that are not strong Christians or atheists or agnostics. They have hope. They pray. They even pray to God. They even pray to God. So I believe that things could get better. So I took the cross in my bag. I moved back home, and then I started to go to the church. I went to the mass. Maybe a little short period after that for the first time, and my brother was already going there regularly. And then when I went there, I remember it being like an overwhelming experience. I'm like, oh my God. My Arabic was very poor at the time, and I thought the Arabic was like Coptic. And it was like quiet in terms of the male side, a bit like today. And there was lots of smoke. I used to call the incense smoke. It's ironic now that I'm a priest, a monk priest. And lots of icons, which I called pictures at the time. Anyway, we attended the experience. It was good. Everyone was very nice again. And after that, I remember what was significant is that I met with the priest. And I think he was taking the confession of my mum and brother, or at least taking confession of one of the family members. And yeah, so I had confession with him. We talked, had confession. He knew who I was, obviously. And he didn't judge me. I'm going to say his name, Abuna Pola. And he didn't judge me. He was very polite, positive, encouraging, all of the above. I loved the experience. He gave me an ekbiyah. His English is very good, so that's what also stood out. He gave me an ekbiyah, and of course, what's this? It's a prayer book, and he told me what to read, and I think it was just like the Thanksgiving prayer and one psalm. And it's ironic now because a monk, like the average monk, he prays all the psalms in the ekbiyah. He does the whole thing. And he also gave me a Bible, which was the NIV version. They gave me the Bible, and he wrote down, this is the same Bible, I still have it now. I think I lost the Akbiyah, the original Akbiyah died out. But still have the Bible. And he put a mark here, so the cross here, read Genesis 39, and he wrote the secret of success. And I remember the verse, what does it say? The Lord was with Joseph. The last verse, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Whatever he did. And I remember after that, I didn't say this last year in my testimony. I wish I said it. I said after that, like when I prayed the Akbiyah, when I prayed the Thanksgiving prayer, and I think the first Psalm, I then lifted up my heart to God. I said to God, forgive me, Lord, for running away from home and breaking up the family. And I remember feeling something, feeling someone was listening to me. There was another side. There was something there. It was like the first time I really prayed and felt something. And yeah, obviously it's a turning point. My life hasn't been the same since being a monk. And I went to, I got baptized later on. This was when I was in year 12. I was 16 years old. I said in my testimony I was 15. No, I was 16. And I remember being mature. I did the renunciation prayer myself, the one where you renounce the devil. I remember Abuna Pola, I'm going to embarrass his name. There you go, parish priest. It was so quick. It did it so quick. There's one, the Father, Son. Well, it didn't give me a chance to breathe. And I remember also doing it because I did it on the time of when Christ was baptized, 18th of January. So the eve of Epiphany feast. See, back in 2005. Of course, I take out my old name because I'm a monk now. I have a new name, new life. You don't go back. You look forward. Not like Lot, Lot's wife. You look forward. And here, just Yom Eid al-Ghtas, the Epiphany feast. And also, I remember one of the female servants that was giving a talk at St. Barbara about baptism, and she was talking about adult baptism. She didn't even consult me beforehand. So she's during the talk, talking about adult baptism. She goes, Abuna John, can you tell us your experience? Okay, no problem, no problem. I'm happy to, happy to. Okay. And then I attended the Sunday school in year 12. I knew nothing at the time at all. The junior youth meeting, which I think was from year 7 to 12 at Amba Bram. That was a lovely meeting. God bless that servant. I attended the camp as well. I just remember the junior youth meeting and Sunday school. I knew nothing. And I remember everyone like being nice and welcoming. And I had a desire to learn. I had a desire to grow. I attended the meeting there. I was hungry for the word of God. I remember being frustrated that people in year 7 knew so much more than me. In year 12, I knew nothing. I didn't know who King David was. But I loved the meeting. I loved having, he used to give prizes if you had like a 90% attendance. So he used to do it, I think, over 12 weeks. He split up every 12. If you had 90%, he used to get prizes. And I don't really like gifts, but I loved being recognized. I loved his kindness. He did a great job. And then look at from there. I used to grow. I remember attending a camp. This maybe sound funny to you, but I never heard of a camp before in the Catholic Church. And when they told me at Sunday school, we're going to have a camp. Like, okay, but what do you mean? That means we're gonna go have a camp outside. I'm like, what do you mean? You meet outside the church? No one meets outside the church. No. We're gonna meet outside the church, and we're gonna have like spend time outside and like overnight outside the church. Okay, I didn't understand. They had to clarify that to me, because in the Catholic Church, I never saw it. I never saw like these activities. I never saw these camps outside. I never saw this social side, which was good. I remember talking to my confession father. He told me, go to this camp. I was very reluctant. He goes, no, go to this camp. And that camp was very good because it showed that, boys, the relationship between boys and girls, like it's a positive relationship and it's friendship. And the talks are very good. The talks being good for me, uplifting. And I remember like they had rules. You had to follow the rules, but I respected the rules. Like there was a TV in the cabin in the hallway, and I was watching the Rage music videos, the old show called Rage music videos, and the servant's like, no music videos. Okay, no music videos. I respect the rules. So it was good. It was good. It was uplifting and took it from there. And I remember, so here's a picture of the choir, whatever the meeting's called now, Sydney Youth Meeting, whatever it's called, but it used to be called choir. And remember going to the choir meeting, and it was packed like this, 200 people plus, and it was a great experience because, like for example, the Akbiyah, they were praying the Akbiyah together, like 200 plus people, everyone saying it. You cannot not join in. You cannot say. You have to sing with them. Like you can imagine 250 people saying the same words. So powerful. And I haven't experienced anything since, to be honest. Like our monastery has 10 monks. It's not the same. And Egypt is good too. Like I've attended Kiak, like they have the long vigils, the Kiak in Egypt. I attend there usually when I go for retreat. But it's Arabic, so I can't do the full thing. I don't have the full scope in Arabic, the full range. But the choir was great. And I remember the Tasbih, the midnight praises. The first night I didn't go, but then the second night there was the servant there. He kept encouraging me. He's like, come to the Tasbih. So I came, there was like 40, 50 people singing. It was really a nice atmosphere. And we don't have that at the monastery. but yeah, I mean, we don't have that many people, that many monks. So it was a turning point. I'll just talk about the Bible quickly. So after HSC, I wanted to really read the Bible. I wasn't working at the time, and so I had lots of free time, 3 months off. So I'm like, let's read the Bible, cover to cover, from Genesis all the way. And I used to read for hours, at least 2.5 hours, maybe 3, in the summer heat. And there was no air conditioning at the house. My mum didn't want to buy an air conditioner, and so my hands would sweat like crazy. But I just kept reading, and I didn't understand a lot, but I kept reading. And I remember reading the story of Saint Paul. So, like, if you read the Bible, even the Bible in chronological order, like in order, even though the Bible is not chronological, it doesn't go in order of date. But if you read, for example, in the epistles of Paul, it says Romans, the book of Romans, and it says the epistle of Paul, it says book of Corinthians and Second Corinthians. So I read that, and that's after the book of Acts. And Saul converted to Paul, like Saul changed to Paul. So you read the book of Romans, and I'm like, okay, who's this Paul guy? Okay, he's the convert that converted. Well, that's good. So he wrote a book. That's pretty good. And then you read the book of First Corinthians. The title says an epistle of Paul. Okay, so Saint Paul has 2 epistles. That's good. And then you read Second Corinthians 3. Okay, and then you read the next epistle. Wait, hold on. How many epistles does Paul have? And he's got 14. Oh my God, I never heard of this person. And what I found significant is that he was a convert. He was like a persecutor of the church. So he was a rebel against the church, and then he changed his whole life. So I could relate to St. Paul. I thought that was nice. I thought it was also funny. Like, I didn't know who he was. A couple of verses stand out from the Bible. During that time, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness, but is long-suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Like, when I read this verse for the first time, like, look, God cares about everyone. Like a lot of people that come to the church, they go, as if God can forgive me. He can't forgive me for what I've done. He can't forgive me for, like, running away from home for so long and being a rebel. He can't forgive me for doing A, B, C. But the Lord desires everyone to repent and come to him. So that verse stood out. And he said, he meaning Christ, you are from beneath, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. And I'm like reading this, what is he on about? What is this world? And then as you keep reading the Bible, you understand, the world means like the world of sin. Like Christ is above the world. We will have our world really is in heaven. Our citizenship is in heaven. So like, and also like for a monastery is not considered part of the world. It's not part of the literal earth. It's maybe literal, but it's not part of the symbolic earth. It's considered part of heaven. Okay, so that's why when someone becomes a monk, they die to the world. They die to materialism. They die to temptation, the world we can see. So Christ says, I'm not of this world. I'm like, as you read on, okay, things start to make sense. You start to see the light. The words of the Lord are pure words, like silver tried in the furnace of earth, purified 7 times. And yeah, that's lovely. Does anyone know how hard it is to make silver? I was a science teacher before I became a monk. Does anyone know how hard it is to make silver? You need a furnace. A furnace is not an oven, 200 degrees, 300 degrees. The top oven maybe 300 degrees. You need a furnace, that's 800 degrees plus. And when you put it through, you can watch this on YouTube, how to make silver, right? You put metal through it, and then you take away the impurities. And then you got to put it through again, the process again, so you purify it again, like you get the good stuff, the silver. And that's why it says purify 7 times. You have to do it so many times. So it's not hard to make silver. And the words of the Lord are pure words. That's how pure the words are. And your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. And this is what Matanya is, like changing your life 180 degrees. And of course, the monk, one of his rules is to do prostrations, Matanyas, a certain number. And yeah, that's how people change. People change from the word of God. They don't change from soccer. They don't change from a social event. That's just, soccer was a lead-in for me. That opened the door to the church, to the word of God. That's what changes people's life. That's what ultimately makes people become Christian, is the word of God, and that changes people to become better, moral people. It's a powerful form of evidence of Christianity. And I remember I used to drive one of the old uncles, called the Uncle Johanna, who converted from Islam to Coptic Orthodox Christianity, and used to give him lifts every now and then. He passed away maybe a few years ago. And and he wrote a book, and his book about his journey from Islam to Christianity. It's called How I Saw the Light. What is monasticism? This is an hour in itself, and I don't have much more time. Look, just a couple of basic things. It's derived from the Greek word monachos. Monachos means monk, and the word monos, alone. You know, that's why I make fun of people that, they have a monobrow, mono, like one brow, mono meaning one. That's where it comes from, okay? So mono meaning one. So it means you're one, but more, kind of like alone. So a monk is basically, he's alone with God. He's one with God. He lives in solitude with God. That's what it comes from, okay? Basically 3 forms, very briefly. One of the forms is called monasticism, which means monk lives in complete isolation. That's what a hermit is. So you have Saint Paul the Hermit. You have a hermit in your church, Saint Nofer the Hermit. He is an example of monasticism. Lives in complete isolation. You don't see anyone. You don't see anyone. Like you're self-catered. You have your own food, your own clothing. You partake of communion somehow. Like, I guess God delivers it to you. You don't go to church to have communion even. So that's a rare form. It still exists, but it's very rare. Like I can meet some hermits, right? But they don't live in complete isolation. They will maybe come down to the monastery every now and then for communion, or they'll be visited. Someone will give them food or something like this. Like last year, when I was in Egypt, I met a hermit in St. Macarius Monastery, and he lives there for the whole week, but he comes back once a week for the communion and the, I think, food. And that was a picture of St. Paul the Hermit, yeah? And that's why I have a picture of St. Paul and St. Anthony and the whole Orban. So he used to get his communion delivered, his bread delivered, you know what I mean? His daily food delivered. A half of bread, and then when they met together, had a whole piece. That's a picture of Antonio. So he kind of did the next system, semi-anchoritic, meaning anchorite, meaning like a hermit. So it's semi. They don't live in complete isolation. So they gather for the Eucharist. It's kind of like, imagine, like that monk I was talking about in St. Macarius. He spends the whole week in isolation, pretty much, even though I got the pleasure of visiting him during the week. He comes back for communion on the weekend, I think, Saturday night, Sunday, for the Eucharist, and then he leaves. So it's a system for the whole monastery if they do that. St. Macarius don't do that for all the monks. He was just doing that. So imagine the whole monastery having this system. It's, again, not that common. It's not that common. St. Anthony was an example of that. The most common is the what's it called, Cenobotic system, based on Saint Pachomius, and that's why in the liturgy, what does it say? Pachomius, father of communal life, community, in the commemoration of the saints in the liturgy. So that's a communal life, meaning like you share things, you share meals together, you share in the prayers together, in the Atbeya prayers together, in the mass together. And even you work together in a lot of things. So we do that, but that doesn't mean you don't have a combination of systems. But St. Shenouda Monastery, our monastery, definitely employs the Cenobotic system. We don't have any hermits. And if you want to be a hermit, you need permission from the abbot. That's like one of the prayers in the, when you get ordained consecrated as a monk, it's called consecration as a monk. It says, if you desire the life of a hermit, like being a hermit, solitude, you have to get permission from the abbot or the bishop. Like the bishop is the abbot, and you can only do that with permission. So that's the most common, but that doesn't mean you don't follow a couple other systems. And look, monasteries vary around the world. If you go to Egypt, anyone been to Egypt, it varies. I mean, you probably won't experience that much because not being a monk, but I've been to many monasteries now and as a monk, and you see so many differences. and you see a combination of things. And that would apply to nuns too. There's a book I read, very famous book called Contemporary Coptic Nuns, talks about this in detail, how even different convents, some people don't like the word convents, but some nuns don't like the word convents, but the monasteries for women, they employ a combination of systems sometimes. And yeah, Saint Bartholomew has his own rules. That's just, yeah, you can read. Look, it's not even like rules. There's a saying in monasticism, like, there are rules, but there's no fixed rules. There's no black and white. It's not like you have to do A, B, C, D, E. You're gonna, as like I say, if you go to different monasteries, you find different rules, different system, different flavors, like different timetables, so many different things. So there's not one rule. So even the Pachomium order, it's not like, there weren't really even rules. They just kind of like got attributed to him, made out that Saint Bartholomew had all these rules. He didn't, but these are sort of some of his rules. Okay, you can read that yourself. But yeah, I want to stress again, they weren't really even rules that he wrote himself. And that's just, yeah, one thing to see. That's the probation period. That's when someone wants to join and become a monk. They have like a novice period. It varies. I was 2.5 years. Sometimes it's more, 3 years, till you become a monk. Yeah, anyway, like I said, you can read those rules yourself. But the important thing is, see, he prayed together. That's talking about the communal life, being together. And work is important. That's important. It works everywhere, really, for a monk, so that you avoid idleness. You know, St. Anthony, the story of St. Anthony, when he was like getting bored, and he asked God, what should I do? And then an angel came to him, and he said, make needle, like neve, you know, when you do make wool, neve. So he make like a colon saw, all right? And that's also why later on when he made this colon saw, he used to wear, and it ripped during a battle with the devil, okay? And that's why he stitched it back together, all right? That's why the monks wear it now like this. This is a stitch in the middle. And let's not get into if this colon saw where it came from, and like it came from St. Anthony, but people argue if it's Syrian and we shouldn't wear it. Anyway, I say we shouldn't get into it, and then I just mentioned how does someone become a monk? I don't know how much longer you want me to talk, Dr. Kira, but it's up to you.
That's all good, Abuna. Usually we continue for another 15 minutes or so.
Okay, that's very kind to know. All right. So how does someone become a monk? This question, it's broad. I don't know exactly what Dr. Kira meant. Just made a picture of a monk. This is my brother. I'm on a Buddha side. My brother Muslim, so I just wanted to embarrass him. And yeah, we're eating popcorn, watching one of the talks, Bible study talks. But look, it depends what he means. Does he mean why? Does he mean why someone becomes a monk? If he does, there's many reasons. You're not going to get any like one answer. You ask many different monks, you get many different answers. I think what's common though, you have to have a desire. A desire for what? A desire for quiet time, desire to, live with God. I guess everyone has a desire to live with God, but maybe you don't really want to get married, but you have a greater desire to serve God with your life, a desire to be in solitude. I wrote down a couple of things. It's a grace. Like it's have a desire, like I said. Yeah, I remember there's a famous documentary called Light of the Desert in French, La Lumière du Désert. The hard bit and they said in the documentary, I put it on my YouTube channel because they took it down. So, but if you can find it on my YouTube channel called the Light of the Desert in English, and they say that everyone that wants to become a monk, the heart has to beat for the love of God. I think that's a good summary. The heart beats for the love of God. You're not going to find one answer. And especially when people ask you, why did you become a monk? Which I hate this question. Why did you become a monk? Because there's not one answer. But the short answer is you love God. But one time I answered because this person was annoying, and I said, look, I lived a life before when I was young, I lived a life away from God, and life was tasteless, absolutely tasteless. Then when I lived a life with God, it was full of taste, had all the taste. So that's like a drive for monasticism. It's a gift of grace. Many people will say, why? Because of the gift of grace from God to become a monk. I agree. It's a grace from God. It's given to you. It's like a calling. It's not like I choose, quote unquote. Okay, you have a will, not that about it. You have a part to play. But God is the one who calls you. It's like priesthood. The God calls the priest. It's given to you. We're all invited. Not everyone necessarily invited to become a monk. They're called, but you have to do your part. That's the relationship between you and God together, synergy. If Dr. Kira means process, how does someone become a monk? That's a big process, and there's no black and white again. My story will be different to most stories, and like particularly how I became a monk just before it. You'll see some common things, but some things are different. What some of the common things may be? I think, look, you need guidance of a confession father. Your confession definitely has to, encourage or support you. I think you should do like monastic things before, which include, I'm going to get to it in a second. Maybe we'll get to it in a second. And I think the goal, if I was to summarize the goal of monasticism, as if I'm an expert, you're always a beginner. Doesn't matter how many years you've been here. And actually, this is the other question that I hate more: how long you've been here, or how many years you've been here. I hate this question. I tell you why. Because you're always a beginner. I don't answer this question anymore. Or sometimes I do. I say one day because the people annoy me. And I got this answer from a monk, and he said they go to him, "How long you been here?" Hey, we're talking like a monk that's been here for like 30 years. He's like, one day. How many years have you been here? Because one day. I tell you why. Because if you start to count your days, you start to lose the goal of monasticism. You start to think, oh, wow, I'm big, I'm superior, I know what I'm doing, and you forget that you're a beginner. You're always a beginner till you die. You know nothing. You're not even know half of anything. So I think the goal is to love God and to love one another. That's my personal opinion. It's a commandment, of course, in the Bible, but I think that's one way to summarize it. And of course, the Spirit gives life. The flesh profits nothing. That's what monasticism is. All of Christianity is like that, but especially monasticism, it's about the Spirit. It's not about the flesh, because you're not fulfilling the flesh. You're not married, so you're not, engaging in activities of the flesh. You try to suppress the body in terms of food. So you try to be ascetic and eat minimal. Try to. Like they got asceticism is what? Minimum of food, drink, and sleep, as well as general distance from the world. If I could do that a bit better, it would be good. Again, my definition of asceticism: minimum of food, drink, and sleep, as well as general distance from the world. And I'm going to say a verse here. Forgive me. It's in the Bible. This verse touched me. The verse in Corinthians where it says, there's no one married here. Anyway, there's a verse that says, he who is married cares for the things of the world, how he may please his wife. But he who is not married cares for the things of the Lord, how he may please his Lord. So this verse stood out. It doesn't mean people that are married don't care for the Lord. They do. But it just shows you that it's more difficult to live for the Spirit. It's more difficult because you're married. You have to spend time with your wife, kids, etc., etc. Abuna Lazarus, he said this, the famous monk in Egypt. He was Australian born. He says, when you become a monk, your desire for like married life and it atrophies. It's like a muscle. When you use it less and less, it weakens. So you suppress the flesh. And he says also the ones that are married is very busy with his commitments. But that doesn't mean the monk is a gold standard. They all fall short. We all fall short badly. I don't think we have time for this story. Yeah, I talked about this in YouTube, but this was just one story that showed how I sort of like became a monk, a significant story. Maybe we'll skip the story. I did this to embarrass David Hanna there. He was one of my best friends before. If I can just say, I'll just say one thing about the story. Basically, yeah. So that's David. So we were good. So once the short story, you can watch on YouTube. I talk about it more. But I was turning 25, and I wanted to have a birthday party. My monasticism was not going according to plan. And then when I had this birthday party, okay, and I had the best friends. As you can see, David was a good friend most of the time. And then there's another couple of other friends, probably some people you know. There was about 10 of us there. And then after the birthday party, I was like, look, I had a great time and like I enjoyed my friends, but I want to become a monk. This is not what I want to keep doing. And I went to visit the monastery the next week. And the summary of this visit, it was a very significant visit because I wasn't planned. And when I went there, I talked to a monk there that I never talked to for 40 or 45 minutes. And he was encouraging me to become a monk. He goes to me, you want to become a monk? I go, to be honest, I'm 50-50. I don't know what to do. I got obstacles. I don't know if I should get married or become a monk. I don't know what to do. My mom's trying hard for me to get married. Mom was very against monasticism, so against it. I don't want to talk too much about my mom about it, but and then the summary was he was very encouraging. And then after I came back to church, I went to have confession. Then my confession father brought it up. It's like encouraged me to become a monk. I just had this conversation yesterday with Abuna so and so for 45 minutes. It's like, this is a good sign. And yeah, it was a turning point. And 9 months later, I joined the monastery. It was a big turning point. And obviously things happened in between. If you want more information, go to my YouTube channel. And like we said, what monasticism is, it's liberation of the spirit. This stood out for me. Liberation is a fancy word for freedom. Freedom of the spirit. Look, the monastery, sometimes you get people that say stupid questions like, being a monk, don't you regret becoming a monk? Like, this is a stupid question because the grass is not green on the other side. You invest in the grass is most green where you water it the most, where you invest, where you plant. So if you invest in the spirit, you will grow. So if you're in the monastery, you work on the spirit. You don't look towards getting married. You don't look to the green on the other side. And of course you don't regret because you want freedom of the spirit. And so there may be and sometimes you get questions like, oh, why can't you leave? You can't just go to the shops, or don't you miss out on fishing? Don't you miss on getting married? Look, this is stupid. There may be a physical restriction. You can't just everything in the monastery is with permission. That's the whole obedience factor. And the obedience is difficult, sometimes very difficult, but it's very rewarding, and there's a lot of benefits to being obedient. I talked about it once for about an hour and a half, and it's very relieving of having a responsibility. And so there may be a physical restriction. You can't just take the keys and drive out without permission. You're going to get in big trouble. But it's more importantly, it's about freedom of the spirit. That's more important than having freedom of the physical. And it tastes a lot better, like we said. The flesh is tasteless. That's just a picture of me and Buddha Moses getting consecrated as a monk, or sometimes we say ordained, consecrated. And the reason I put this is because it's called a funeral prayer. When a monk gets consecrated, they die to the world. Die to the world, like we said, and he gets a funeral prayer. Funeral prayer. So a monk has multiple deaths, and it's also considered like a baptism. So he has multiple baptisms. That's a picture of us on the ordination day, consecration day, me and Buddha Moses. And that was 5 bishops, so many priests. That was a big day. The prayer went for 5 hours. But it was a great experience, of course. Too long though. Just quickly about the process. Becoming a monk. This is just for any advice. I read this book before I joined. Young men or a woman or men who want to enter the convent or monastery are expected to prepare themselves for this new life while they're still living in the secular world. So if you want to become a monk, thinking about becoming a monk, like I was, and I read this book before I joined called Contemporary Coptic Nuns, which I highly recommend. It says a lot of things I'm saying, but in more detail. It's actually by a non-Coptic woman who visited all these convents in Egypt. You need to be practicing memorize as many psalms as possible, withdraw from family and friends, and to keep themselves away from mundane amusements. Mundane comes from the French word le monde, the world. Okay, so yeah, that's why I see some stories. One of the stories in the book, it says there was a woman who did not like the camps and going out to the swimming pools and stuff, and then she wasn't into this stuff. And then later on, one of her friends said, "I was not surprised at all that she became a nun. She was like to withdraw from family and friends, had lived a quiet life." And yeah, it also says to have many visits. Recommend to have many visits to the monastery and talk about it with monks about why he wants to become a monk. But there's not one process, but these things help. These things are good guides. I wish I learned more Psalms before I joined. I wish. And if I was your age, that's one of my biggest regrets. Learn Psalms. Learn parts of Psalms. Absolutely everything to gain, absolutely nothing to lose. You want me to keep going?
What do you guys think? You have to. How long do you have left, Abuna, out of curiosity, or how many slides do you have left?
Oh, I don't go by slides. How about time? I can probably wrap up in 5:10 if you want.
Yeah, sounds good. There's a lot of nods on our side. So yeah, 5:10 sounds good, Abuna.
All right. What's the typical day of a monk? Look, again, there's no rule. You're gonna find many answers to this question. There's not one black and white rule. I write down what's kind of like my general day, but that varies from person to person. 4 a.m. there's midnight praises. After that, I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you what I like to do. This is a bit. It's a bit of a confession. I'm telling you that I like to pray. I usually pray the first hour. Like the monk is supposed to pray all the hours. I like to pray the first hour. I like to do prostrations at that time and read the Bible. Why? Because it's the beginning of the day. It's the morning. You're fresh. Get it out of the way. Pray as much as you can in the morning, as early as you can, and that way you've reached your canon, like your rule, your spiritual rule, and it's fresh. It's a lot harder later. I hate reading the Bible at night time. I absolutely hate it because I can't concentrate. I struggle. Sometimes I can't finish the Bible in the early morning because of, like, let's say work commitments, or I'm praying the Mass like multiple times. Like this week I prayed the Mass 3 times, like my turn to do the sacrifice. So it was very tiring. So like this morning I didn't finish the Bible. So I read it after the Mass. But if I can, I read before. It's the best. And do prostrations, the Matanyas. Then I sleep. It's too hard to stay up. Sometimes a couple of young brothers that like the people that want to become monks, they ask me, I'm going to stay up after Tasbih till the Mass. We pray the Mass at 9 o'clock. I go, look, that's a bad idea. You're going to be too tired throughout the day. You're going to die. Those 2 hours of sleep makes a big difference. Go back to sleep. Liturgy here is 9 to 11 a.m. You'll see across the world different times. Most monasteries in Egypt, they pray a Mass after the Tasbih, the midnight prayers. So many different rules and different seasons. Great Lent, different seasons. The Masses are 12 o'clock, sometimes 3 o'clock. Here we pray Mass 12 o'clock in Great Lent. Anyway, so many different seasons. Lunch 12 o'clock. So I prepare the lunch for them. So after the Mass, I prepare the lunch. I look after the monk's kitchen. I have other jobs, I guess. Work, prayer after that, reading, meditation, meeting visitors. Look, it varies what you do. There's no black and white rule. It can be a hobby. I'm not joking. Like one of the fathers, he bought a puzzle, the puzzle where you have 1,000-piece puzzle. He bought it, and we did it together a bit. So yeah, sometimes you have misconceptions. How can a monk do a puzzle? He's wasting time. Look, there's no one black and white rule. It's important to have hobbies and stuff. Like I was a science teacher. I love astronomy, so I have a telescope. This is a confession. I'm not like the best monk in terms of voluntary poverty. One of the vows, you shouldn't have possessions, but I have a telescope. I have a pretty good telescope actually. But I love to look at the sky and contemplate on and stuff. I like learning language as well. Like I have other hobbies. Like I like looking at other languages. Like for example, French. Um, Sunset prayers at 5 o'clock, and so we do our Shea Vespers once a week. You'll find different monasteries many times. They pray the Vespers more often. Dinner here in the monk's kitchen is 6:30 p.m. and then meditation prayers. I guess whatever else. It varies. Rest, sleep for the next day. I went on a website at Saint. This is a monastery in America. Here's their timetable Monday to Friday. There you go. You can go on the website. They have a different timetable Saturday and Sunday. I think this applies a bit more towards the visitors though, but you can see their timetable there. I'd like to see if they follow this timetable. Never been there, but yeah, that seems like a long midnight praises, 4 to 6. But yeah, that's the time. They'll say they pray liturgy after this bar. It varies, but it gives a general idea. If you type Saint Moses Abbey Monastery in America, you find their timetable there. They have a timetable for Saturday and Sunday. Ooh, what are some lessons that I've learned? I wanted to ask other fathers what they thought. These are my own personal contemplations. I guess this is a big list, but just a couple of things. Obedience, yeah, that's a big thing. It's obedience to the letter, especially when you're a novice. It continues throughout your whole time, to the letter. That's one of the most difficult things, but also the most rewarding things. Like I could give you so many examples. I talked about obedience for like in 2 sessions once this year on YouTube. But like I shared a couple of stories. One story, oh my God, I used to empty the oil outside on the grass, like outside, and one of the fathers, if he saw it, he's like, "Are you emptying the oil here?" He goes, I said, "Yeah," because I thought like he's very firm. I told you not to empty it over there. The monastery is and I'm thinking to my head, the monastery is 400 acres. You're worried about this little piece of grass for the grass to grow? But that's obedience. Anyway, there's so many stories I could say. Always a beginner. That's really stood out for me. Prayer then work, not work then prayer. The order is very important. A prayer should accompany work. Any work, meaning you should pray when you work. You should pray the Psalms when you work. That's why you're supposed to memorize the Psalms. It's very difficult if you don't memorize Psalms to finish many prayers because you don't have time. So and it's also much better, more you save time and you feel it's just good. It's a good thing to memorize Psalms. But of course, it's not about vain repetition. If that makes sense to you, this sentence, prayer then work, not work then prayer. Everything's for God, meaning everything we do is for God in the monastery because we own nothing. We have no money, we have no possessions. Yeah, be kind to immediate family. I think I wasn't a good example of this when I was young, a young monk, novice monk, even though I'm still a young monk. And I remember one of the fathers saying to me, he goes, "You have to treat your family nicely, like your blood family nicely, like your mom and dad and all that stuff. You don't say, oh, look, I'm a monk now. I don't talk to them or I talk to them less or I talk to them harshly and then be nice to the visitors. That doesn't work. You have to be nice to them." And I fell into this trap of not being nice to them, the nicest to them at the beginning. I should have been more nice and more welcoming and like I should have made more phone calls to them. There are extreme cases where, some monks, they never talk to the family again and stuff. That's a different story. Even though my mom was like against monasticism for a long time, I didn't enjoy the visits at the beginning, but yeah, this is good advice. But again, this applies to monks. You're talking about what I've learned. Yeah, I'm hypocritical or we're hypocritical. We say things that we don't do. At least we should aim what to do. My confession father once told me years ago in confession, he says, we say as monks what we aim to do. It's good advice, even though if we're not doing it. If visitors can present serious issues, I'm not going to comment further on that. Yeah, and it's a war zone. You're not going to understand what that means, but yeah, it's a war zone. Meaning it's not roses. It's difficult. You're dealing with, 10 fathers. Everyone has their own different opinion, and yeah, people that ever visit the monastery and live there, they know that it's challenging. It's kind of like being married to like 7 wives in a way. It's like it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. But more importantly, when I say war zone, meaning the devil is working because you're on the front line serving God with your life. So the devil is trying to work and attack. The story, Paradise of the Fathers. The Paradise of the Fathers is the main book for monks. And one of the stories is they have a meeting with the devils. And I'm sure Dr. Kira knows the story. Maybe tell it to them. And he have a meeting with the devils. And one devil goes, I'm attacking this monk, and now he fell into the sin of swearing after 1 week. It's not that great. And then I've been attacking this monk, and now he's hating his brother. Okay, that's not bad. And then there's one devil. He goes, I've been attacking this monk for 40 years, and he fell into the sin of fornication, like sex outside of marriage. And the devil goes to him, you're the best. He gave him a crown. What a champion devil you are. Showing the devil working. Okay, I know I'm over time. Last question. Can you practice love monasticism outside the monastery? Does anyone have an opinion? Dr. Kira, any opinion yourself or ask them? This is your question.
No, please, I'm going to ask them. Ask them.
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
Sounds hard. Sounds very hard.
No. I think the question is not, can you become a monk? I think then maybe that's what you're saying. Can you practice the life monasticism outside the monastery? Like, yeah, it's hard, but I mean, I think. Go ahead. I don't want to speak for your answers. Keep going.
So speak up so we can hear you.
It was a word that he used to describe it, actually, or like he said he wouldn't call it monasticism. There was another word.
Can you practice the life?
Solitude. Is that the one? Yeah, that one. I think there's a difference because you're not in solitude, so there's things that you can't really do. If that makes sense. You're facing more, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I think what Barbara's saying, you can practice asceticism but not monasticism.
Yeah, isn't that what?
Okay, all right, so that's one opinion. Yeah. What else do you guys think? Can you practice the life of monasticism? I think I wanted to use monasticism purposefully. I think. But what do you guys think, sir? Any other opinions? I heard someone said to a certain extent as well.
100%. That's what I wanted to say. 100%.
Anything else before we give the floor to the woman?
Your turn, Dr. Kira. What do you think? It's your question. I'm serious.
I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking you.
What do you think? I'm serious. What do you think?
I hope we can. At least to an extent where Christ the world. There are so many examples of. Many times he said that. He says you're the salt of the earth. So all of these sort of analogies, which make me think, actually, we need to be living separate to the world, just like monks and nuns do, where we have to be, even that word that we hear a lot, being sanctified, which sanctified means to be set apart. Yeah, just like the altar's sanctified. We can't just have dinner on the altar. No, it's set apart for a particular purpose. I feel like our lives are actually like that, and I think that's what the monks do in a very obvious way, where they've set themselves apart from the world to live a purpose. So I hope we can live a life of monasticism outside the monastery. I hope it's possible.
Yeah, I agree. I remember talking to actually the late Amber Epiphanius, the bishop who was murdered. I met him. Me and David met him actually, and he said like a monk becomes a monk before he joins, meaning like you kind of like practice these things before you join, and you just like it's like a transition. But he actually gave an example of someone who left the monastery, and he said a monk. He said this exactly word for word. A monk left the monastery. He left the monastery before he left the monastery, meaning he started to break away from monasticism in the monastery, in the physical monastery, by doing these practices, and he left physically later. So I think it's true. We can all do it to a certain extent. I got this question before, and my answer is yes. I believe you can do every single aspect of virtue of monasticism to a smaller degree, 100%, and that's why everyone should read, encouraged to read, like monastic books, even though they're not going to become monks, or they're married, or they're definitely never going to become monks or nuns. But yeah, you can apply a lot of it in a small way. And even when I read the Paradise of the Fathers, there are so many extreme stories, because it's back into the 4th century. Like monasticism came out from the 4th century because persecution stopped. So that's how monasticism started to flourish, started to extend out, because that's what considered a life of martyrdom, because it was martyrdom without blood, shedding of blood. And a lot of the stories are extreme. They're extreme, like shedding without blood. I'm like, that's a different time period. We don't do that. Of course, I think, and I also think if I was to pick one virtue that is probably the most applicable, I would say obedience. Because you have to be obedient in your life. You have to be, obedient in your work to a boss. You have to be obedient to the rules of the government. You have to be the rules of the police, of the government, sorry, like police. You have to be obedient to your priest, or you should be obedient, And so you have a system to follow. So you can definitely, when you get married, there's obedience. Don't tell me there's no obedience. Of course there is. You have to be, there's give and take. Your wife tells you to do this, and your husband, there's obedience. It's not a arrogant hierarchical chain. Okay, we're going to just skip the monastic role models because of the time. I think everyone in a way, and obviously Christ. Skip this. Yeah, this is just my personal stories. And we're just this one, Father Mino Siriani. Okay, he's one of the monks that I met. He's a real hermit monk in San Macarius Monastery. Me and David met him. My confession father, he's not a monk. He's not a monk, but I believe he's still a good role model, even though he's not a monk. So I don't think it's limited just to being monks. And you can read a lot of saint stories who weren't monks, and they're tremendous role models, and they're even monastic. Father Ibrahim El Basit, the simple, he was like a great example of being monastic, even though he wasn't a monk. Father Bishoy Kamil in the Cameron Saints. Anyway, let's not talk about that more. Yeah, let's just skip the monastic vice. This is just, you can read this in your own time. Just the last thing to say. This is my own advice. My main advice to anyone that wants to become a monk, I say, let faith overcome your fear. It applies in everything in Christianity, but particularly monasticism. If anyone talks to me, which is not very often, about monasticism, I say, look, let faith overcome your fear. That's what drove me a lot. And avoid the marriage stigma. You don't just get married because everyone is. I just become married, everyone is. You may well not become a monk, but at least let God guide you, and let faith overcome your fear. That's just a nice psalm that I like. I have a 2-minute video about Abuna Mina that me and David met. Oh yeah, it's not going to go according to plan. If you think it's going to get easy, become a monk, good luck. It never will. It never goes smooth. There has to be obstacles. You want me to play the video? It's up to Dr. Kira. If he says no, he says no.
Yeah, play the video, brother. Play the video.
Okay, me and David, we actually met this hermit monk. This is the documentary I was talking about, The Light of the Desert. And look at him. He's great.
À une faible distance se trouve la grotte du père Mina, le premier compagnon du père Matel Maskine, l'un des 7 ermites du monastère Saint-Macaire. Il vit ici à la manière des premiers moines du désert.
ما الذي يتعلمه الإنسان في البرية؟
أن يكون له حب صادق مع المسيح.
D'avoir un amour authentique, sincère envers le Christ.
Et quelle expérience de Dieu fait-on?
ما هو الاختبار الذي يختبره عن الله في البرية؟
هو اختبار الصداقة الشخصية الحميمة بالرب يسوع نفسه.
On fait l'expérience de l'amitié personnelle, intime, avec la personne du Seigneur Jésus.
هو إحساس داخلي بعشرة الرب، إحساس داخلي واضح جدا بعشرة الرب.
Le sentiment intérieur très réel, très vécu de l'intimité avec le Seigneur. Je suis avec vous.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Glory be to God forevermore.
Abuna, thanks so much. Before we conclude, I'm not sure if it's all right, just for a couple of questions. Maybe we'll take one or two, and we can answer them in a few minutes. They don't have to be in depth at all, but
Yeah.
I feel if
I'll
we don't ask.
answer them quickly, briefly. Hard.
Amazing. Abuna, the first question is, in monasticism, some talk about a distinct core on their heart. How can someone recognize a core from God opposed to it simply being a feeling?
Yeah, that's with the more you test it, it goes by time. So you test it more, seek the guidance of Confession Father, read the Bible more often. If it's just a one-off event, it will pass quickly. But if it's something that keeps coming on your mind, and you feel more signs are becoming apparent, God will guide you. It works by time. It works by time, and the more you connected with God, and read His Word, I think that will show more often. Sometimes there is a supernatural event that happens, and that's sometimes you see, like how do some people become monks or nuns? Sometimes there is a supernatural event or something extremely significant, like a massive turning point, like someone dying or something. But this is rare, and it's not common. And even if it is, you need to test it more with being in line with God. I think that I hope that answers a bit of your question.
Thanks, Abuna. Next question was about the hermits. The next two questions are about hermits. And the first one is, why do monks need permission to live as hermits?
You need permission for everything, because that's monasticism is about obedience, and it's not just about obedience, because the whole church is being obedient. You have to be obedient to the bishop, you have to be obedient to the priest, obedient to the pope. So there is a system. If there was no system, there would be chaos. Being a hermit, like anything, like without permission, it can be very dangerous. You're doing your own will, and you can harm yourself. So if you're not prepared to be a hermit, like being a hermit is a rare thing. And if you're, for example, seeking to be a hermit without permission and taking the guidance of like your confession father and spiritual father, you're going to die. You're going to die, and it's going to do more harm than good, is the short answer.
Thanks, Abuna. The last question, if I'm interpreting it correctly, is there an equivalent of the life of living as a hermit for the nuns? Maybe one of the priest-servants hasn't heard.
Yeah. So again, if you read the Contemporary Coptic Nuns, they go into this in a lot of detail. Like, it's a very good book because it focuses more on nuns, but of course it has monks in there because they're attached. They mentioned female hermits. I can get you the paper. I forgot. I do remember them talking about it. There's a section in there. It's very rare, but what they do more, because there's not really any convents that are in the desert. But now they're starting to become more and more. Like, for example, there was a nun that visited the monastery recently from St. Damiano's convent monastery. And she said now there's a couple of convents starting in the wilderness, in the desert, before they're always near the cities. So they're starting out more. I don't know if that is necessarily a good thing. It's usually more dangerous, as they say, for nuns. But even if it's not in the desert, what they can do to be kind of like a hermit, they can be isolated in their own cell. So they gave some examples of this, of some mothers being isolated in the cells and acting and being a bit like a hermit. But it is rare, and if you want more information, you should read Contemporary Coptic Nuns. I'm sure you don't have the book because it's very expensive. It costs about $110. So David can buy a copy for each one.
We can borrow from Bishoy Marcus Abuna. I'm sure he has it in his library.
He doesn't borrow. He doesn't share anything. He doesn't practice. He does not practice a life of community like Sam Thomas.
I'll make sure to tell him that.
I'm happy to tell him by you. You tell him as well. Thank you. And I apologize if I went too long, but not really, because I want to talk as long as I want on my channel.
For you to share that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Abuna. Pray for us, and it definitely won't be the last time that we invite you to share in a talk. And hopefully, we can organize a pre-service trip to the monastery. It's been a long time.
Anytime. And hopefully I don't see you at the doctor's office anytime soon.
Just to say hi. Be healthy. Come, be healthy, but say hi.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abuna. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.